Good afternoon. This is Media Center Ukraine, Odesa. We continue with the discussion of the work of UNICEF in the southern region of Ukraine. Our speakers are Veronika Nikitina, UNICEF Communication Specialist, Anatoliy Ihnatovych, UNICEF Education Project Coordinator. Good afternoon. Hanna Velichko, Coordinator of the Educational Component of the Vitry zmin, Winds of Change Charitable Foundation, and Tetyana Rodionova, Coordinator of the Education Subcluster. Good afternoon, everyone. So, Veronika, let's start with you with your presentation. Good afternoon, Yevhen, and I would like to welcome all journalists, colleagues who have joined us today and those who are watching us online. And today we would like to get acquainted with those whom we are not familiar with. So we'd also like to share the details of our activities in the South region. So the educational year started a month ago, so we have some achievements, and I hope that you will be inspired by what we share with you today to cover the topics which are also related to UNICEF activities and to your work. Let's start from the presentation. Now I would like to briefly describe our work, where the representatives of the UNICEF Odesa offices, one of the 6 field offices, implementing a range of projects in Odesa, Mykolaiv, and Kherson regions. We have started our work in the Kherson region only recently. That's why today our main focus is Odesa and Mykolaiv Oblast. By the end of 2023, we are going to provide services to more than 2 million beneficiaries, including adults and children. And this is possible thanks to the support of our donors. This is the government of Japan, USAID, ECHO, the Department of the European Commission, and many other partners to implement our projects here. We cooperate with the relative ministries, with the Office of the President, with the First Lady, and also regional and local authorities, and of course with the private sectors, volunteers, and NGOs. Anna today represents Charitable Foundation, and she will just tell you what it means to be a UNICEF partner. So the area of our activities, the first is to protect children. For example, these are mobile brigades of UNICEF, and in this picture you can see one of our multidisciplinary mobile teams. They visited families of the flooded communities after the destruction of Kakhovka HPP, and our team provides mental, legal, social support to such families. We also organize work of children spaces, shelters for elderly and for victims of gender-based violence, etc. The next area of our work is healthcare and healthy nutrition. We support healthcare institutions like maternity houses, hospitals, and clinics. We support immunization. We provide equipment like refrigerators, renovation of shelters, etc. Our next area is water, sanitary hygiene, and of course we mainly support here Mykolaiv and Kherson regions. For example, now our colleagues dealing with the wells that have been damaged after the explosion at Kakhovka HPP dam. In the Odesa region, we also drill wells for such hospitals and infection hospitals, hospital number 1, etc. And we also supply fresh water. We also support water supply companies to buy chemicals to purify water. And one more area of our work is education. Here we work with the youth, and now I would like to give floor to Anatoliy, who will share more details about the progress in this area. Dear colleagues, good afternoon. Any hostilities, whereas they all of them, they are related to humanitarian response and humanitarian organizations. Since 2014, UNICEF has been actively present in Ukraine in different regions, but with the start of the full-scale invasion, we have activated our work here in the southern regions, including Odesa, Kherson, and Mykolaiv regions. As education project coordinator, I am responsible for implementing educational initiatives and the UNICEF programs in Odesa, Mykolaiv, and now Kherson regions. And I would like to share with you some big news as for our priorities, but unfortunately there are no big news, and I'd like to say that our main priority is to ensure access of students to education and the access for teachers to their practice to share their knowledge with children and students. When it comes to the format of our activities, then it depends significantly on the military situation, hostilities, the shelling by Russians. And now we are working on identifying priorities when it comes to our activities in those regions where the education is provided in the offline format, in the blended format, and in those regions when it is impossible to ensure in either offline or blended format. So this is a fully online format when children cannot visit educational institutions as well as their teachers. And now you can see the slide providing information about our progress in the Odesa region. We started last year, actually this year. We started with the renovation of shelters, and in two cases we have completed all work, and in summer, and three more were completed in September. So students from Chernomorka, Odessa, Yuzhny, and Avangard now can come back to offline format of education because the schools are equipped with shelters. 69 basic skills of the region received support amounting to $3,000 last year to get ready to this educational year. And this money was spent to improve the security situation, and that was up to educational institutions to decide how to achieve this. This year, these schools in May, July received additional $2,000 each to improve the nutrition quality. This is the project that has been implemented together with UNICEF and the First Lady, so the schools could use this money to improve nutrition of students there. And these are also the basic schools of the Odessa region. The list has been identified together with the Ministry of Education and has been approved by the Cabinet of Ministers. And you can see that this information is publicly open, and the schools now send reports about how they use these funds to improve food quality at schools. One more important element when it comes to support of children in the educational process is to ensure the best protection for students at schools. As a part of this initiative, and we did not only provide for the renovation of shelters, and we also provided the special film to deal with debris. And first we covered 25 schools that are located in communities with poor infrastructure facilities or other critical infrastructure facilities. And in the second phase of the project, we added 3 more educational institutions. So in general, in total, 32 educational institutions obtained additional protection for their windows. In the Odessa region and then in Mykolaiv region, we have opened 10 educational centers together with our partner, Vitry Zmin, Charitable Foundation, or Winds of Change. There have been a great number of IDPs where children don't have access to offline education. So these centers are aimed at supporting children and ensuring life access, so to say, to the online educational process. And that's why we launched these 10 centers. We're also planning, together with another partner, to launch digital educational centers, and we are going to have 11 of them for Odesa and Mykolaiv regions, so additional 11 facilities. 15 schools of the region with more than 11,000 students received furniture kits. This is one of the initiative by UNICEF to support schools where furniture was destroyed, to ensure proper conditions for students to learn and to study, and I think that we'll be able to continue this initiative. And the basic schools of the region received shelter kits last year. What is a shelter kit? These are like seats, blankets, containers with water, means and chemicals to clarify water. These are also materials for interactive activities with children. All basic schools of the region have obtained such kits from UNICEF. And one kit is one truck, and we delivered everything to all basic schools. This year, we are planning to continue this initiative, and we are going to provide generators to a range of schools for their shelters to have power supply in case there are outages. And we also support following the requests of territorial communities. We provide various kits like schools in boxes, recreational kits, the kits for early development that are mainly provided to kindergartens and nurseries. So if we have a grounded request from a community, we send our kids. So if you are a representative of educational circles for territorial communities, if you have some needs, please don't hesitate to refer to us. We are ready to support you. On this slide, you can see Prilemanski Lyceum, and on the left, shelter before renovation, and on the right, shelter after renovation. And this school now provides educational services for 1,800 students. This is just one of the leader in Ukraine when it comes to number, and at least 900 students are able to simultaneously visit such school, and we also ensure a blended format. As for Mykolaiv Oblast, we have renovated 8 shelters and 8 schools. So this is not only about renovating shelters, this is more about schools that have been damaged by bombardment or missile shelling by Russians. So we have had their windows substituted, the roofs have been repaired, and of course shelters have been equipment. And we also provide film to protect the schools from debris and shutters. We also opened 10 educational centers, and 11 schools were supported with school furniture. We also respond to requests from communities and support them with different materials and brochures. Again, you can see the shelter before and after in the sports lyceum of the Mykolaiv Oblast, namely in the city of Mykolaiv. And the next slide, please, you can see the example of the film mentioned. And actually, you cannot always identify the film on the window, so you can see now the process, how it is installed. This is an anti-shard film that protects windows if there is an explosion nearby. The next slide, very important component that has become even more important after the explosion at Kakhovska HPP dam. This is the raising awareness about mine danger on the sea coast and in the mine territories. And together with our partners, we organized training for children, and we also provided such a 3D stents to the emergency service of Ukraine that are used for their mine security training sessions. And together with our partners, we have organized a mini tour, non-lections, together with Ukrainian host Alexander Pedan. And we told children what is mines, how to be protected, how to deal with, what to do if they find explosives. And the next slide, please. Perhaps this is our biggest intervention that was done with us together with our partners. Before the 1st of September, we were able to support 40,000 students from Odesa and Mykolaiv regions with such school kits. We call them individual educational kits. So you can see a backpack with stationery. So everything children need to go to school to continue their learning. And all first-grade students in Odesa region received these kits. The first-grade school children in Mykolaiv Oblast in offline or blended format are still getting these kits. And children from vulnerably unprotected vulnerable categories also have received such kits, and we will continue this initiative, and we will do everything possible for children to come back to fully-fledged education. So our task is to ensure the development of children and job for our teachers. And I would like to thank our partners. I would like all authorities that are ready to support us in our initiatives, who provide statistics to us, who help us to raise awareness not only about the project, but also help us to implement our projects. And I think, Veronika, we can now give floor to our partner, Vitry zmin, Winds of Change, who can today tell us more about how we can cooperate in the educational area. And I would like to give floor to Hanna Velichko. Thank you, Anatoliy. Thank you, Veronika. And now I would like to tell you more about the work of our foundation supported by UNICEF. Anatoliy has shared a lot of details, and we also have training for teachers. In total, we have 62,700 beneficiaries, including, just a moment, including 49,400 children and 13,300 adults who have undergone training when it comes to such components as mine security, inclusive environment. And I would like to share more details about such an important component. That was the training comprised of 8 sessions for teachers who work with the children in our educational centers, covering such topics as inclusive development of school children, sex education, the methods of work with children in an unstable emotional condition, work with educational professionals and resources for them to prevent outburn, the work with the children suffering traumas, the signs of the regress and development of children suffering violation, methods of communication with children, verbal, nonverbal, and types of violence against children. And these topics were selected not by our foundation or UNICEF. These were the needs of teachers. This is where they lack information today, and this is what they want to learn about. What I like in our work a lot is that when we work with teachers, I can see how they are striving to get new knowledge and new skills. So it is important for them to be able to identify needs of children, their needs, and also the needs of parents of the children we educate. And in this work, we have learned about new needs of our children. For example, when it comes to sex education, we can see that it was difficult for teachers to listen to that information and let alone how to talk about this topic with children. For teachers, it is difficult to respond to such information about sex education. We saw different emotions among teachers. They were embarrassed, they did not feel comfortable, and were flexible in our education. That's why we have even changed the component, even for teachers to be able to better perceive this information. And now we have a huge list what knowledge it is important to share with the teachers. And we have already some progress in this area because teacher has already started to work to prevent sexual violence. And they work with the parents at schools, and teachers say that this is really useful for them, and it is very interesting to discuss these topics with children, because children now know that they can say no, that they don't want to be hugged, because there are some rituals in classes when everyone hugs, but not all children like this, and this is about violating personal borders. So we continue cooperating with the teachers, we identify their needs, and we try to do everything possible to ensure safe and useful education for our children. I would like to thank UNICEF. Thank you, Hanna, and I would like to give floor to our colleague Tetyana Rodionova, coordinator of the educational subcluster. Thank you. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. One of the areas of our work is to coordinate education subcluster, unifying all organizations like international and local in the educational area. In the educational subcluster, we coordinate efforts of all organizations to identify gaps in their response. For example, if there are some communities that are not covered by activities of our partners, or on the contrary, there are places where there are a lot of organizations duplicating their aid. And we need to coordinate these activities to prevent duplicating activities. In the Southern Educational Subcluster, 16 international organizations, 26 local organizations, 4 UN agencies are involved. And on this slide, you can see some of these organizations like Save the Children, the Norwegian Refugee Council, Plan International, local organizations like Saved, Hanna Sad. Together with our educational partners, UNICEF in 2023 has already provided help to more than 106,000 children and teachers who have suffered from the war. And we can see, for example, that in the Kherson Oblast, on around 8,000 beneficiaries, which are only 20% of the planned number, and the best covered is Mykolaiv Oblast, 66% beneficiaries, children and teachers received already our support, and we also closely cooperate with the regional and local departments of education and science. With the start of the new education year, we already have received requests from Mykolaiv administration to open schools in the offline format. And there is a prerequisite, there should be access to fresh water at schools. And the educational subcluster has received the list of schools who need support in the form of water purification devices or plants, and now we have been coordinating these activities to ensure access to fresh water at schools, for schools to be able to open their doors for offline education. From the Kherson Educational Department, we have received requests for electronic device for education because they are now fully in the online format, and of course they need devices. We have also received requests from the Odesa Educational Department to pay attention to preschool education, because in the Odesa region there are around 200 nurseries and kindergartens that are closed because there are no shelters and they work in online format, and this is not a proper format for small children. That's why our subcluster, together with partners and other organizations, have received requests to construct mobile shelters and nurseries and kindergartens. This is briefly about main areas of our activities. Thank you very much for these details provided. Do we have additional questions from our colleagues? Please. Sorry, I would like to make a conclusion. We will get to this later, but perhaps we have questions from the floor. I'm Vlada, representing Suspilne Odesa. I would like to ask you, do you have any plans, projects you would like to implement in the Odesa region in the nearest future? I'm interested in the new one. I can say that we are actively involved in winterization, and we are getting ready to possible blackouts. And last year in Odesa and Mykolaiv regions, we supported water supply companies, hospitals, schools, collective centers for IDPs. We provided generators, modular boilers, and winter clothes for children. This year we are going to continue this work, and we are at the active preparational stage. And on the 20th of November, this is a very important day for UNICEF, because this is the World Day of Children that was established by the UN. And for that period, we're also planning a range of different activities, and we would like to invite journalists. Do we have any other questions from the floor? We have a question. As for previous question, Anatoly wants to add something. Just briefly on my side.
Concerning children in Ukraine is the kidnapping, the mass kidnapping of Ukrainian children in the occupied region to Russia, supposedly for re-education and so on. And I'd like to know, and to acquire Russian nationality, in some cases be drafted into the Russian army, as far as I'm informed. I'd like to know what UNICEF is doing to monitor this, or try to in any way do anything about it.
We are, as representatives of the field office of UNICEF of Ukraine, cannot provide any details and numbers, but I can say that I can provide you contacts of the regional UNICEF office, because this is a cross-border question. So this is dealt by the office dealing with the Central Asia and Central Europe. And also Anatoly would like to answer this question and the previous one. Our office works in the Odesa, Mykolaiv, and in the parts of the Kherson regions which are controlled by the Ukrainian government. Unfortunately, we cannot perform any activities on the occupied territories of Ukraine. That's why, unfortunately, we cannot answer your question as the Odessa regional office, but Veronika will share with you contacts of those who can answer your question. As for future educational projects, I'd like to emphasize that we have been actively planning for 2024. We have been developing the roadmap of our activity for the upcoming year. And we have been also actively preparing country program document for 2025-2030. This document is of a multi-sectoral nature, and it is related to education, healthcare, hygiene issues, etc. So with all these areas covered by UNICEF. And in our area of responsibility, we are making our proposals. We have workshops, and we hope that by the end of this year, we will submit the draft proposal to the Ukrainian government, and during the first part of 2024, we will communicate upon this document. We'll discuss it with the Ukrainian government, and after that, this program document will be signed by UNICEF and the government of Ukraine. So we will develop the activity program for 2025-2030, taking into consideration humanitarian needs of Ukraine. As for 2024, we have the following plans, and I would like to say that we have provided educational digital devices like tablets, laptops. We have provided more than 1,200 in Odessa region and even more in Mykolaiv region. In the middle of October, we will get additional 40,000 digital devices that will be disseminated in different regions. And we work together with our Kyiv office and the Ministry of Education. But the new consignment of digital devices will be provided for sure to Odessa, Mykolaiv, and Kherson Oblasts in October. And I think that we will have a separate media campaign and several meetings at schools with the teachers and children, and also to provide these digital devices to them. And we will continue supporting schools with the means that we have. And every day we process numerous requests from schools, and we are going to launch an important initiative in Odessa and Mykolaiv regions. This is the youth development program Upshift. This program envisages many grants provided to teams of 3 or 5 people. So teams should prepare many projects or to form at least a concept. Then they can submit their concepts or projects for the grant. And the best ideas will be selected, and the teams, after training and workshops to develop their leadership skills, so-called soft skills, will be able to implement their projects. We are planning 10 waves, starting with November this year. We will launch this program in Odessa and Mykolaiv oblasts, 5 waves for each oblast. And using this opportunity and through Media Center Ukraine Odessa, through Suspilna Odessa, we would like to address to our young people, please subscribe to our social media pages, and please don't miss this possibility to participate in the Upshift program. Together with our partner NGO потрібні тут, needed here, you can be actively involved in this project. A short question: when you provide devices to schools, do you monitor if these devices are used properly to avoid situations when directors of schools use them for their own needs? UNICEF, together with the Ministry of Education, have developed the interactive map of use of these devices. You can find this information on the website of the ministry. You can see how many devices have been provided to a specific school. And parents who are aware of the needs of their children, and if parents know that there is a lack of such devices at their school of their children, they can refer to the director of the school, to the management, to get more information. So this is transparent information, and I think that the best approach to monitoring of proper use of these devices to avoid abuses is through this interactive map with the precise information. This interactive maps contains information not only about the devices provided by UNICEF, but also by other UN agencies and other humanitarian and civil organizations. Those devices that will be provided for Odesa and Mykolaiv Oblast will be included into this interactive map. And as for modality, so they are taking on balance of schools, and schools provide them to those school children who are in need. If then a child moves to another city, a child should leave it, the device at school. But unfortunately, we cannot meet all 100% of needs, but we are trying to provide as many devices as possible to children because they need it to use at home. And if we see a significant demand for such digital devices for education, we open digital educational centers providing services in the educational field to catch up all those gaps and education with all those gaps and educational losses, and also to communicate offline. And there is a question to Veronika. You've mentioned that you've established cooperation with the range of organizations. Do you communicate with local and regional authorities? Yeah, of course. Our activities are implemented in the framework of our programs and our cooperation. For example, with the educational department at the regional and local level. Do you refer to them, or do they refer you? Anatoly, can you provide more details? Usually when communities have needs, they refer to us. And sometimes we have initiatives when we see some needs, so we can just communicate with them. And I am representing the relevant cluster. The Department of Education refers through cluster, providing information about needs, and then our cluster, through coordination with the partners, with all organizations in the region, finds those who can be responsible for the process. This could be UNICEF or other organizations that envisage such support in their mandate, like school buses, generators, or water purification plants. So this is how we coordinate this activity, and if you allow, we cannot and we do not plan to substitute the authorities. That's why our aim is to cover as many school children as possible and to make our humanitarian response as adequate as possible when it comes to the existing need. And we are proud of having adequate and fruitful cooperation with the educational departments in the Odesa and Mykolaiv regions. If we need some information like statistics, we can just make a call or can get this information through email or WhatsApp. And if they know that there is a lack of devices in community, or if there is a need in repair of shelter, if there is a need of some other support, they also address us because communities usually send information about their needs to the relevant department, and then department can aggregate this information and then refer it further, for example, to UNICEF or IMO, etc. My question is, don't they try to put their responsibilities on you just to write off their budget funds? We don't know anything about such cases. Do we have any other questions from the floor? No questions. So then just a short conclusion from Veronika. I would like to thank Media Center Ukraine Odesa. I would like to thank Evgeny, and would like to thank journalists who are here with us today. Could you please show the last slide with our contacts? And just for you to refer to us if you have any media requests, if you need to clarify some information with regard to our regions of responsibility or the whole country office for Ukraine, UNICEF. So please contact us. Thank you very much for being with us today. I would also like to thank our colleagues. And this is the last briefing for today. Thank you.